So welcome to Sarat Chandra Academy. Now this is Dhanunjay Reddy. I will be dealing with economics, the topic of economics. So what I will be discussing here is, today I will be discussing 3 or 4 aspects. Why the topic of economics is important for UPSC perspective anyhow, and as well as how that can be used in day-to-day life. This is the first concept that I will discuss. Now in UPSC, what is the weightage that it carries in prelims as well as in mains? This we should know. Apart from that, we should also know how they can be addressed. Now whenever I discuss this, we should also know what is the difficulty in this subject altogether. Why people face difficulty in writing this subject. This is the next thing that we should know. After that, how to make it easy. These are the things that we have to study. So in this discussion, I am going to introduce this concept. Now economics for UPSC perspective. In the prelims, every year from 2014 to 2022 or 2023, this year, the total number of questions that will be ranging is from 18 to 22. Out of 100 questions in prelims, 18 to 22 questions are directly from economics. This is the first relevance. Now what do I mean to say? It has 18 to 22 questions, which means if you want to clear prelims, we should have good understanding of the subject, that is the interpretation. This is the first thing. Out of this, if you are very good at the subject, out of this 20 questions if they ask, we should be able to at least answer 16 questions correctly. At least 80% of the syllabus has to be addressed correctly. This is the first thing that we should understand. In the mains, you all know that economics comes under GS paper 3. In GS paper 3, you have 4 components. First one is Indian economy, followed by science and technology, followed by environment and ecology, followed by internal security. Out of all this, there are 19 topics in mains syllabus in GS paper 3. The first 10 topics are under Indian economy, which means 50% of the paper in the syllabus is in GS paper 3. Now what UPSC will ask is, this paper has 250 marks in mains and 50% of the paper will be with economics questions, which means 125 marks directly from here. 125 marks are directly asked from this section. So there will be 10 marker, 15 marker. So 5 10 marker and 5 15 marker will be from your economics. So there will be 10 marker, 15 marker in the subject totally out of this paper. In this, 5 questions will be from economics, 5 questions will be from 15 marker, like this, 5 into 10 50, 5 into 15 75, 125 marks. Pakka, this is the pattern that they follow, which means 50% of the mains answer writing in GS paper 3 is from economics. This is the relevance. 125 mark untai. First thing, is there anyone who cannot understand Telugu here? Right, ma'am. Whenever I use Telugu, I will translate it into English, don't worry. Now, this is second thing. Now the third thing is, the relevance of this topic is not only left here. It has huge relevance in other papers of UPSC. That is in essay writing, in GS paper 2 and in GS paper 4. In essay writing, every year there will be at least one question which will be touching from the basics of economics. They can ask about women issues, they can ask about developmental issues, any issue which is concerning about government and governance or welfare of the people is related to economics, because economics deals with growth and inclusive growth. So that we study here. So out of the 2 essays, one essay can be answered very effectively from this topic of economics. If you have some good basics, you can cover that essay. So more or less 125 marks will be covered there, half of the essay paper. In GS paper 2, GS paper 2 is all about the so-called governance. You have one concept called governance and social justice. Similarly, in GS paper 4, you have good governance. So the concepts of good governance and social justice you study under the so-called social development along with economic development. So in economics, you have economic development as well as social development. Social development means how the society has to be transformed. Samajam ఏ విధంగా అభివృద్ధి చెందాలి అనేసి మనం డిస్కస్ చేసినప్పుడు that comes under social development. That can be achieved through economic development. Hence, if you look at the syllabus, in economics what they say, economics and social development. This is the pattern that they have given in prelims. So they say economics and social development. So when we study this economics and social development, it has huge overlap with social developmental aspects in essay, in GS paper 2 and paper 4, along with the core economics of GS paper 3 as well as the prelims component of this. This is the relevance. More or less, what I mean to say is, this subject, if you understand the basics very clearly, it will be a cakewalk for prelims. The second thing is, on the social development sector, this will be very, very helpful to write good essays and to substantiate our answers for social justice as well as inclusive growth concepts in GS paper 2 and GS paper 4. This is the overlapping component. Hence, by one subject, you can cover everything. So this is the relevance of this as far as UPSC is considered. Why it is important in day-to-day life? In day-to-day life, this subject is very, very important because this is the subject on which the human relations are made of. For example, if I am standing here and if you are sitting here, it all is coming at one cost. For every hour you are paying something, for every hour I am taking something. So the relation that we are going to have here is that economic relation. What relation? Pay money, get it. Look at the society. Whenever you go out, everything is related to money. What Karl Marx said, human relations are monetary relations. Manav sambandhalanni arthika sambandhale. What does this mean? This is the thing. So if you understand this subject, unfortunately, even if you don't get into UPSC, at least we should be in a position to track our day-to-day life, how we are spending, on what activities we have to spend, how to save the money, what are the various options that are available for us to spend, how to secure our lives, how to secure our property. At least with this knowledge we can build on. Because money is important for everyone. So by the end of the day, economics discusses with money. So with the basics that you are going to have, you can expand this in our personal lives. How demand is made, how supply is being provided. These things you have to have. So what I say is, study this subject not from the perspective of UPSC. Anyways, you are going to study from UPSC perspective here. But try to apply this in the gradual context of personal lives. This is going to be very, very useful. This is the importance of the subject altogether. But the question is, even though this is very important, there is some difficulty in learning the subject. People feel difficult in this subject. Though it is interesting, people feel difficult. The question is why people feel difficult. We feel difficult because throughout our school days, we didn't study this subject exclusively. We don't study the subject, right? At max, what they will cover, there will be one subject called social subject. In social subject, they will give polity, that is called governance and these things. In the last part, civics, they will give this. Civics and economics. Economics we never study. At max, what we have studied in our school days, we have studied sectors of economy: agriculture, primary sector; industry, secondary sector; services, tertiary sector. These things we will study. And what we will study? Agriculture. What are the problems of Indian agriculture? Right? These things we will study and we will stop there. But here, This is the difficulty. We do not know the terminology which is available in economics or which are very, very important for this subject. As we are unaware of it, after 10th class, in the intermediate, anyhow we will not have, if you are an MPC student or a BPC student, unless and until you are some HEC student, some commerce background or economics background, you don't come through this terminology. The same thing happens in graduation. That is the difficulty. Otherwise, the subject is very easy, just like geography. You have some affinity towards geography, you have some affinity towards history. Why? Throughout our school days we have studied it. But as the terminology is very near, just like a stranger where you meet, you will feel a bit uncomfortable. But once you start understanding that stranger, you feel very comfortable. This subject is a stranger for us. That makes the difficulty, that's it. So we are not exposed to this subject, so that is the difference. Right? Even look at this in the newspaper. If you are following the newspaper, right, what it happens, we will study everything. We will study what Narendra Modi said in the front page. We will study how Kohli has played in the last page. We will study about what Anushka Sharma has said in the middle page. But when it comes to the business page, we will skip it. Right? So what does this mean? Why we skip it? We skip it because we are not familiar with these terms. But once you understand this, how we have to keep that in practical life, our focus will be more on this. Why the focus will be more on this? Because in movies, even Ram Charan Tej said, సమాజంలో ఏమైతే జరుగుతుందో బిజినెస్ పేజ్ చూస్తే అర్థమవుతుంది అనేసి ఒక డైలాగ్ ఉంటుంది ధ్రువ సినిమాలో. హ్యావ్ యూ అబ్జర్వ్ దిస్? రైట్, వాట్ హీ సేస్, సమాజంలో ఏం జరుగుతుందో అర్థం కావాలంటే బిజినెస్ పేజ్ చదివితే చాలు, బికాజ్ ఎవ్రీథింగ్ విల్ బి రిలేటెడ్ టు ఇట్. Why? Again the Karl Marx decision or Karl Marx statement he has said in a different format. So this is the thing. So this subject is such important, but we are finding difficulty in understanding this because of lack of awareness. This is the first difficulty. Now how can we make it easy? To make it easy, you have joined these classes, right? You have paid this amount, you are here. That is a position. So what we will do here in order to understand this? The difficulty of the paper is lack of basics in the subject, or we have not exposed to the subject as such. The second one is, unlike other books, you do not have a proper reference material for this. Proper reference material. And the third difficulty it is, proper reference material means, if you take polity, immediately you will say for polity I have to study Lakshmikant. If you take modern Indian history, you will say something like spectrum is available. If it tells geography, you will have one book. At least 6th class to 12th class NCERTs we have to study. But if I ask economics, we cannot be in a situation to tell what is the exact material. The lack of the material makes the subject bit difficult. ఏం చదవాలో తెలియకపోతే ఇంకేం చదువుతాం, రైట్? దిస్ ఇస్ ద థింగ్. ద థర్డ్ వన్ ఈస్, వెన్ ఎవర్ యూపీఎస్సీ ఆస్క్స్ ద క్వశ్చన్స్ ఇన్ ఎకనామిక్స్ ఆర్ వెరీ డైనమిక్ ఇన్ నేచర్, particularly from prelims perspective. Out of all these 18 to 22 questions that I said, in the prelims component the questions are going to be very, very dynamic in nature. Dynamic in the sense, you should have knowledge about the static component, and then you should understand how that is applying in day-to-day life, right? If you have watched today's newspaper, the heading of the newspaper carried that LPG gas cylinders were reduced by 200 rupees because the elections are coming near. Now this is the topic under subsidies. Subsidy is a concept of economics. So if they ask what are the fuel subsidies in the country, so you should have the knowledge about subsidies, why government gives subsidies, and then you should be able to link with this. For cylinders, what are the things that you have, right? Cylinders is a thing for social development. Why? On the cylinders, it is the woman who is going to work. In their households, if they do not have cylinders, what they will do? They will use wooden files or wooden sticks. Because of that, health is deteriorating. That comes under social development. This is the thing. They will ask the interpretation. Now you should have something for this in order to this woman to leave this and go for using the LPG cylinders. Government of India launches one scheme. You have to study that scheme. So the questions will be in this way. This makes the subject bit difficult because they are very dynamic in nature. These three things makes the subject quite difficult, but once you understand the basics very clearly, you love this subject. This is the first thing. The difficulty of this is this. But for mains, this is for prelims, it is difficult. But for mains, economics is the easiest thing out of all the papers. There will be 10 topics, and out of that there will be 6 questions which are repetitive. The themes will be repetitive. Once we by heart it, the answer is done. The rest of the 4 answers we have to build on. So this is very easy component. Out of all the subjects in mains, GS paper 3 economic is very easy. But the difficulty is in here. Right? This is the difficulty. Now why mains topic is easy? Because it deals with sectors. More or less it deals with sectors. Now we are familiar with this. Hence that becomes very easy. So, but for prelims, this is the difficulty. Now how to overcome this? How can we make this subject very clearly? For that, the only thing is attend the classes regularly. You'll get the basics. Simple. And maintain your notes. There is no reference material, proper reference material. I'll tell you the reference material, but follow our class notes first. We should be very clear in this. After this, what we have to do is, we have to build the subject through some mock tests or previous year questions. For prelims, we have to learn from the previous year questions the subject. Don't worry, they have given me enough space and time here to discuss previous year questions also. So we'll discuss that previous year questions, how to address them and how to answer them. From 2005 at least up to 2023, we have to discuss. Then you'll understand, okay, from which area the questions are being asked. After this, you have to do some mock test, mock bits, MCQs. That you can take it from Sarat Chandra Academy, or if they are dealing outside also, you can take it. Some 900 bits you have to do. Once you learn the subject in this way, this is going to be the reference material. The reference is simple, class notes plus previous year questions plus mock test, 900 bits. Totally it consumes around 1500 bits, not more than that, along with our class notes. After this, if you have time, then go for which books? Not NCERTs, micro, macro, so the thing is, what you have to study, if you want to understand the subject in a lucid manner, in a very simple manner, you can refer Telugu Academy books, intermediate, first year and second year books. In a very simple language they have written this. You can refer it. First year book carries the basics, second year carries the microeconomics related aspects. So it is best to follow this rather than your NCERTs. This is the best source. After this, if you still have time, Telugu Academy book, degree book will be there. Degree third year, you will get a book known as Indian Economy. You can read that also. That is also a good book. Indian Economy, third year. Indian Economy. There will be India cover page, a blue color book. Now, after this, Telugu Academy recently released one more book for competitive exams special. If you are writing competition exams, particularly from Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, group 1, group 2, these type of things. For that, you have competitive special Telugu Academy for Indian Economy. Competitive special. This is another book that will be exclusively for competitive exams. But the problem here is, today we are not finding these two books in the market. There is shortage of material, right? Whatever the material that is available, Telugu Academy Competitive Special, that is there in Telugu medium, not in English media. So they have to release that book, I think. They are printing. I don't know what is the status of it, but the rest of the books are available. If you are able to get, you can get it. This is the best source to prepare from your end if you want to prepare. But what I say is, you enter into or you venture onto these things only when you are good at this, right? Less luggage, more comfort. Less books, more clarity. That's it, right? Read less, apply more. That should be the slogan. right? So don't divert unnecessarily. With the limited resources, how we can present to the best, that should be our aim. This is the thing. After this, still if you have time, read whatever you want, right? That is the thing. Next, how to link it with the dynamic aspects. Now, how to understand or how to get interest in reading the Hindu newspaper or business newspaper, how we can do it. So we'll do one exercise. In my class, what I will do, every day I will go through the Hindu, the economics topics that were covered in the everyday Hindu. So what you have to do is, for the class, bring that day's Hindu newspaper, so that we will understand how exactly the subject is there. Don't worry whether you understand or not. Try to understand, that's it. Because we are writing this exam. Competition means this. So bring it. Every day you bring it. I will show you how to read. Slowly we will fall in love with that, and then we can apply the same thing. So this is the thing. So like this we have to do. Slowly, once you start reading, you will understand how exactly the syllabus can be kept into use. So these are the things. In order to link it with the dynamic aspects, bring the newspaper from tomorrow. I will show you how to read it. Then lack of basics will be done. So these things can be overcome. So for prelims, this is the thing. Once you do this, our class notes, previous year questions from 2005 to 2023, mock test some 900 bits. Once you solve this, prelims will be in hand. Now with this knowledge, we can apply 80%. I cannot say 100%. I cannot guarantee you that also. Anta jadivina kuda edo okati untundi. So at least 80% we should be able to apply. Once you are getting 80% accuracy in this, we will be on safe side for prelims. For mains, it is totally a different concept. The thing is, we have to understand what exactly is there in the syllabus, and we should be ready with the ready-made notes. That notes I will tell you in the class, don't worry. Clear? These are the things. So for mains, what you want? So here what you want? Prelims, previous year questions. I'll ask the academy to give it to you. Second thing is, mains also question papers we should have, because we have to understand the syllabus and we have to understand what are the questions that they are asking. By understanding the nature of the questions, you will appreciate how exactly the questions are framed and how to make it, how to reduce our work. That I will deal one day, right? As I start the program, we will come to know that. So these things. So what are the requirements, guys? So the requirements are simple. Our class notes, reference material, you can keep it aside. Previous year questions from at least 2005 to 2023, and then the Hindu newspaper every day. And then after completing of the class, practice 900 MCQs. Which MCQs you have to follow, I will tell you at a later time, right? These things. For mains, have the syllabus paper with you. Institute will give it, don't worry. And then previous year questions from 2014 to 2023. This year also they are going to have exam. You will collect that also. From 2014 to 2023. 2014 nunchi chalu. Before that, the syllabus was different, right? This is the thing. So this is our material. So whenever they ask what is your material for economy, this should be your model. Inka deeniki minchi poguddu. After learning this, if you want to expand, you can expand. But first, try to complete this. This is the second thing. So if you do this consistently, our problem of difficulty is going to overcome. Now how to apply in day-to-day life? Just if you learn some basics, go through the insurance. Say for example, if there is some insurance, try to understand what exactly insurance in the class and try to implement this in your life. When we come to that point, we will discuss that. So like this it will be implemented. So but for UPSC, this is the thing, not more than this. Next, after this, how I will be conducting my classes, right? This is the thing that we have to know. So in our classes, I will be taking every class with, whenever I start a subject, I will start with a brief about the topic, where I will be giving you a flow chart about the entire topic. So in that flowchart, you will come to know what exactly are the topics that are discussed in that particular chapter. For every chapter, it will act as an index page, right? Once you understand the index page very clearly, it will help you in two ways. One way is for quick revision of the topic. It will be concised in entire subject. It will be concised in 11 or 12 pages. Once you go through 12 pages, it will be done. So that is the first thing. Second thing is, you will try to understand. The questions are going to be very dynamic. At least you should be able to understand from where the questions are being asked from the subject, which topic the question is being asked. Question చూసిన వెంటనే ఫస్ట్ మనకి స్ట్రైక్ అవ్వాలి, ఏ టాపిక్ నుంచి క్వశ్చన్ అడుగుతున్నాడని. ఇఫ్ యూ ఆర్ అనేబుల్ టు గెట్ దట్ స్ట్రైక్, ఓకే, ద క్వశ్చన్ ఈస్ కమింగ్ ఫ్రమ్ దిస్, యూ కెనాట్ ఆన్సర్. సో దిస్ విల్ హెల్ప్ యూ ఇన్ టూ వేస్. Clear? So that is how I will be doing. And every day Hindu newspaper is must, because I will link it with current affairs component. So whenever you come to the class, bring that Hindu newspaper. That is second thing. So these are the things, nothing more. If you are not attending the classes, I request you to take the help of your friends and try to know what exactly we have discussed in the previous class, because the classes will be continued. There will be some continuity in economics, right? So we should understand that continuously. If you are missing, try to attend the class without missing. But in unfortunate situation, if you are missing this, take the help of this video if they give you, or else ask the help of your friends to know what exactly are the things that we are discussing. This is the story. So this is what a brief introduction about this classes is, right? Now what are the subject? What is the scope of this subject? Let us look at what is the scope of this subject. స్కోప్ అంటే దీని పరిధి ఏంటి ఫర్ యూపీఎస్సి, రైట్? సో యూ కెన్ రైట్ ఇట్ ఇన్ ఎ న్యూ పేజ్, because this is the subject that we will be discussing. Write in a new page in landscape mode. Write it in a landscape mode, okay? Right? Landscape mode means like this. Now, what is the scope of this subject? From where are the topic is dynamic? From where or what are the topics that we have to look at it? The first thing that you have to have is first thing that you should have is the basics of the subject. The basics of the subject. Where you will be studying what exactly is economics at all, right? Endi subject asalu endi talanoppanta economics, right? And how it is different from the term economy. These things, and then we'll study types of economics. Types of economics, and then what are sectors of economics, etc. Sectors of economies or economics. Economics, what is economy, what is economics, types of economics, sectors of economics. Next, how to measure economy. How to measure economy. These are the things that we will be studying in this domain. After this, in order to measure it, I will be connecting it with the main topic, that is called the national income topic. So the next chapter will be national income. We will be discussing about this in detail, right? So what is national income? Types of national income, tools to measure national income. Tools to measure national income. What is the process of growth and what is India's growth story? What is India's growth story? Once we start discussing about growth, we'll start discussing about something called inclusive growth. Inclusive growth. In this we'll study about what is growth versus what is inclusive growth. What is growth versus what is inclusive growth, and how it is different from sustainable development. Sustainable development. Growth, inclusive growth, sustainable development. Growth, inclusive growth, sustainable development. Now look, I said the scope of the subject is economics and social development, right? Social development kuda oka bhagam ani cheppa indulo. So social development is started here. Now whenever I say social development, here we will study about certain factors known as poverty, pedarikam, unemployment, nirudyogata, poverty, unemployment, and inequalities. Asamanatvam, inequalities, poverties, unemployment, inequalities. These are the basic things that we have to study. Now how to eliminate them we will be studying. So this will be the component. After this, when you are studying India's growth story, that is what I said, India's growth story. So we will also study the growth from 5-year plans perspective. So this makes us to study about 5-year plans, planning, how India has performed. During the 5-year plans, in 1992, we have went for LPG reforms. So that makes us to study about the reforms. LPG reforms. So this is the thing. 5-year plans, be with me. If you are not writing, please tell me. If you are falling short, I will repeat. 5-year plans and LPG reforms. Clear? Written everyone? Next. After this, whenever I say national income, there should be something to measure it, some parameter to measure it. And I said in economics, the parameter that you have is money, dabbu. Right? Now what you have to study is how the concept of money evolved over a period of time. Asal double ante enti ela vachai. Today you are paying from barter system, you have entered into UPI payments. Earlier UPI payments were not there. So how this story has come all together. So that is about what is money at all, how money evolved. This is the first thing that we have to understand. Then what is money supply? What is money supply? What happens or what is the impact of money supply? What is the impact of money supply? What do I mean? If money supply is more, if there are more rupees, what is the impact? If there are less rupees, what is the impact? Right? These two things. Right? Now, from this concept of less money and more money, డబ్బులు ఎక్కువ ఉంటే ఏం చేస్తాం? గాల్లో తేలుతాం. right? This is the thing. So when there is more money, what will be the impact? In the economy, there is an impact called inflation. Right? Inflate ante balloon gets inflated. Why? There is more money or there is more air. డబ్బు లేకపోతే ఏం చేస్తాం? డిఫ్లేట్ అయిపోతాం. డిఫ్లేషన్. There is concept of inflation and deflation. Right? The tire get deflated antam. Tire puncture అయింది అనేసి. What does this mean? Money is gone out, air is gone out. So there is problem of inflation and deflation. This makes us to discuss about the topics of inflation ante enti, deflation ante enti. Now once we are discussing this or after completing this, we have to control this. We have to control this. Control it. Control money supply. In this we will be discussing how RBI will control it and how government will control it. How RBI will control it, how government will control it. Whenever RBI controls it, it is called as monetary policy. Monetary policy. RBI. Monetary policy. MONETORY. Whenever government controls it, that is called fiscal policy. FISCAL. Fiscal POLICY policy. So we will study about monetary policy in detail and fiscal policy in detail. These are the things. Now, after studying monetary policy, as we have been discussing about RBI measures, RBI has one function to control banks. So this makes us to subsequently enter into the next topic called financial intermediaries. Financial intermediary, where we will discuss about banking sectors, banks, the banks problems enti em katha anesi in detail we will discuss about banks and non-banks. There are certain institutions called non-banks. Subsequently, after discussing this, in the fiscal policy, you will be discussing about the next topic after financial intermediaries. The next topic will be led to budget. So we will discuss about what is budget, what are taxes, what are non-taxes, all these things are covered under budget. Right? What is deficits, all these things. So budget covers the revenues for the government, the expenses, income, expenditure is called budget. Revenues are income, expenditure, deficits, budget low to, how to overcome that. These things will cover. After covering these two chapters, financial intermediaries and budget, these two will lead us to one more topic that is called market. అసలు మార్కెట్స్ అంటే ఏంటి, ఎన్ని రకాల మార్కెట్స్ ఉన్నాయి. This leads to the next topic called markets, where you will study about ఇన్సూరెన్స్ అంటే ఏంటి, పెన్షన్స్ అంటే ఏంటి, డబ్బులు ఎలా వస్తాయి మనకి, హౌ టు పూల్ మనీ, like this. This is the first scope. So what are the topics? Basics, national income, inclusive growth. After this, study about money, money impacts. That makes us to study about monetary policy, if RBI is doing, fiscal policy if government is doing, Monetary policy leads us to financial intermediaries, where we will be studying about banks and non-banks. Then we will be studying about fiscal policy, where we will be discussing about budget, these things, right? So these are all individual chapters. So meeku edaithe brackets lo kanipistunayo or in these boxes, these are all chapters of the subject. Now after this is all inside your country, inside your economy. Now every country is not only dealing inside, but it is also dealing with outside. So from the next topic onwards, you have to discuss about how an economy, the next topic belongs to how the country is dealing with a foreign country. So up to here, whatever you have studied, that is India, within India. Now you are dealing not only inside your country, you are importing something, you are exporting something, right? All these things we have to study here. This we will study under one topic known as the balance of payments. Balance of payment. Payments balance ela undi, manaku favor ga unda, against ga unda, how balance of payments is in favor of us. So this is another topic, balance of payments. Now in economics, inside the country there is one agency to control, that is government or RBI. All these things can be controlled either by RBI or government inside your country. But outside your country, RBI cannot control other country, government cannot control other government, right? Every country has their own sovereignty. You cannot enter into their territory or you cannot control them. Hence there should be someone to govern at the global level, someone to regulate these global things. Just like government is regulating inside your economy, inside your country, there should be someone at the top to control it at the global level. So prapancham mottam control cheyadaniki evaru undali. For that we will discuss about the next topic, that is the multilateral economic institutions. Multilateral economic institutions. Multilateral economic institutions like World Bank, IMF, WTO, these things, right? World Bank, IMF, WTO, these things. So after this, so this is at the global level. After this, we will come back to our school days, come back to your economy and study about sectors of economy. Such as the agricultural sector, the industrial sector, the service sector, primary, secondary, service, tertiary, these things. Next, after this, now in order to boost agriculture, in order to boost industries, in order to boost services, you should have what? You should have good infrastructure, right? You should have good infrastructure. Say for example, Sarat Chandra IAS Academy is giving you a service here, teaching service. In order to have this effectively, you should have infrastructure. What is the infrastructure? These are all the things that you are using here as infrastructure. The board, the tables that you are using, the chairs that you are using, every infrastructure is this. Without infrastructure, we cannot work in vacuum. So in order to have anything to progress, you should have what? Infrastructure. Right? So that makes us to discuss about infrastructure. Again, infrastructure can be of three types: human infrastructure, social infrastructure, economic infrastructure. So there are three things: human infrastructure, social infrastructure, economic infrastructure. human, social, economic. Human and social is again social development. సమాజ అభివృద్ధి అంటే ఏంటి? మానవుల అభివృద్ధి, సమాజం యొక్క అభివృద్ధి. కనుక హ్యూమన్ ఇన్ఫ్రాస్ట్రక్చర్, సోషల్ ఇన్ఫ్రాస్ట్రక్చర్ అగైన్ లింక్స్ విత్ దిస్ టాపిక్. సో దట్ ఈస్ ద సైకిల్. Economic infrastructure means having roads, buildings, railways, these things, communication infrastructure, these things. ఇంతవరకు బాగానే ఉంది. బట్ ఫర్ కీపింగ్ దిస్ ఇన్ఫ్రాస్ట్రక్చర్ ఐ షుడ్ హ్యావ్ వాట్? మనీ, డబ్బులు ఉండాలి, రైట్? ఇన్వెస్ట్మెంట్స్ ఈజ్ నెససరీ. సో ద లాస్ట్ టాపిక్ ఈజ్ ఇన్వెస్ట్మెంట్స్. నౌ ఫ్రమ్ వేర్ ఐ విల్ గెట్ ఇన్వెస్ట్మెంట్స్? ఫ్రమ్ మార్కెట్. మార్కెట్కి వెళ్తే డబ్బులు వస్తాయి, right? So again that will be linked with this topic, right? After this, in the infrastructure you have road infrastructure, railway infrastructure, communication infrastructure. Communication infrastructure means the telecommunication signals, satellites and these things. So that makes us to go into the topic of science and technology, which is given as the next component of your GS paper 3. That is how the subject is linked in UPSC, right? అక్కడ నుంచి your science and technology faculty will take it. So my area is from here to this. Understood? So this is the subject. Now look at this. This is the entire scope of the subject, prelims cum mains. Now you try to understand what is the difficulty in the subject. The difficulty in the subject is this: we have not come across these things in our school days. At max what we have studied these things. Maximum చదివింటే ఇవి చదివింటాం, పొరపాటున ఏదైనా చదివింటే ఇక్కడ చదివిండొచ్చేమో, దానికి మించి ఇంకేం చదివింటాం ఇక్కడ. అప్పుడప్పుడు ఇది నేషనల్ ఇన్కమ్ we might have read, we forgot that. The only thing that we remember is per capita income, right? That is the only thing, but the rest of the things we don't remember. This is the difficulty in the subject. These terms are very new, and UPSC prelims is difficult because the questions will be asked from here. 80% of the questions in economics will be from here. Here they don't ask. Here they will ask in mains, sectors. This is what I said. So prelims component exclusively is from here to here. But for here, this is mains component. That is the reason why mains is easy, because we know the thing. Now why I have given this entire thing? This I have given like this for every topic beginning. I will give you a flow chart just to know what we are discussing. ఇక్కడ 2 గంటలు కూర్చొని ఏం చెప్తుండే వీడియో అనుకున్నాకంటే సరే ఇదేదో జరుగుతుంది అనేసి కొంచెం క్లారిటీ ఉంటుంది, రైట్? సో అట్లీస్ట్ యూ విల్ హ్యావ్ దట్ క్లారిటీ. So otherwise it will be just like jumping into a running bus without knowing where the bus is going. This is the bus which you are boarding. This is the things that we are going to discuss. Clear? So this is the thing. Like this, at the beginning of every topic I'll give a flow chart. So you have to write in the similar format in the landscape mode. Now after this is very helpful, because I said that every day we will link our topics with current affairs, Hindu newspaper, right? Whenever we take a topic, say for example today Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana subsidies for cylinders has come. Whenever I am discussing, I will link that with this, and I will say that in the front page this is considered that this is the syllabus framework. In the syllabus framework this comes under which one? Social development. Are you understanding? Because social development has certain linkages with human development. So you should be able to link by looking at the question, Hindu newspaper. You should be able to tell, okay, this can be linked with this aspect of the syllabus. At least you should be able to know that. Ademi chinro artham kaakapoyina, okay, at least this is related to this. So for example today in the business page they have given an article saying that monsoons have failed, or monsoon woes have inflation on food prices. This is the heading that they gave. Because of failure of monsoons, food prices are increasing. Now where you have to link? Monsoons means agriculture, so agriculture is facing some problems that you have to know, and food prices is increasing means price increasing means this one, inflation. So at least if you are able to get that connection, this is going to be solved. Clear? Now there was one more topic. the growth sector in the IT growth sector is going to be slowed down by 3% in the financial year 2024. Now IT sector means this one, service sector. At least you should be able to link it. With that thing, when you look at the newspaper, we'll understand that okay, this topic in the newspaper is related to this aspect. That is the reason we should know this entire scope of economics. Once you know the scope, you will be able to fix it. So remember this. I don't ask you to by heart, just try to remember this. There is some connection. Even if you don't understand now, by the end of our discussions of all the classes, you will come to know what exactly is this. Clear? This is the next thing. Now, second caution, one more caution that I want to say is, the subject is interrelated. Look at here. I said from here you will be entering here, from here you will be entering it here. So if you miss the class here, you cannot understand the next class. That is the difficulty. So try to be present in the class, at least up to what? Up to this. This is one stream. It will go in connected manner. If you are attending up to here, better. If you are attending up to here, this is the best thing, right? So try to attend the classes at least to this extent. Be regular every day. After that, that is your discretion, because even without the help of the mentor, you can understand those things. But this is the topic. Clear, guys? So remember this, and we'll try to understand. So whenever I am going through the newspaper, I will say the syllabus framework. Syllabus framework means this. Consider this. Then oka pair iddam syllabus framework anesi. So whenever I discuss this in the newspapers, I will be referring to this. So this is how we will learn current affairs of economics in the class like this. Current affairs ki sambandhinchinaటువంటి economics kuda ikkade chadiveddam. Right? This is the thing. Yes, inflation, deflation, appreciation, depreciation, this is something different. I'll tell you. So rupee value is increasing, here rupee is falling, that I'll tell you at a later stage. Understood this? Clear, guys, what we have discussed? Next, any questions so far, anyone? ఇప్పటివరకు ఏదైనా క్వశ్చన్స్ ఉందా? So what I said, what is the importance of this subject for UPSC as well as how it is important for our day-to-day life. Day-to-day life పక్కన పెడితే కనీసం ఒక 60 మార్కులను వచ్చేటట్లు ప్రాక్టీస్ చేస్తే 60%, that is be more than enough for the things that we have paid. Second thing, why this subject is difficult to understand. This is the story. The third one is what are the things that we have to do for this. If they ask what are the materials that you have to follow, I have already said these are the materials that you should be strictly following them. Next, after this, what is the scope of this subject altogether for your prelims and for your mains? For prelims, this is the basic thing. For mains, the topic is this, right? So for mains, this will also be covered, but substantial questions will be there. Right? Any question? Ikkada varaku okay na? Are you able to adjust with my frequency, right? Yeah. Next. Now, without much ado, let's start with this basics. What exactly is the basics of economics? In the basics, what we will study? I said this is the introduction flowchart, right? Basics. So this is the first topic. So what we will study in depth? Basics like what is economics, and what is an economy? What is economics and what is economy? Next one, types of economics. such as capitalistic, socialistic, and communistic. Capitalistic, socialistic, communistic. And then we'll study about sectors of economy. Where we'll be studying about the primary sector, secondary sector, tertiary sector, and I'll give a small introduction to quaternary, QAU, QUATENARY, quaternary, QUATENARY, and quinary, QUINERY, quinary sector, quaternary and quinary. And then we'll discuss about what is linear fashion of growth. Linear fashion of growth. What is linear fashion of growth? Next, depending upon the study of economics, where you are studying, depending upon the place of study, economics is classified into micro economics, macro economics. This is the books that you have, microeconomics and macroeconomics, depending upon the place of study. Latestly, there was one more term, a medium of this, known as mesoeconomics. Mesoeconomics. Clear? After this, the last aspect is how to measure an economy. How to measure an economy. This leads us to the next chapter, that is national income. So subsequently we'll go to the next topic. This is the basic theme. Written, everyone? Right? So let's start here. What is economics and what is an economy? Try to understand this. Rasar kada anta? Yes. See, in any society, whenever we are living in any area, wherever people are present, the need of the people or the needs of the people are unlimited, right? Manavani korikalu anantam. The needs of the people are unlimited, but the resources that are available are very, very limited, right? Unde vanarulemo chala takkuga untai, mana aashalemo ekku untai, right? See, we will be working less when we will be expecting to clear IAS, IFS, IPS like this. So that won't work. So what does I mean to say? As people are having much of the needs, as limited resources are there, when there is no one to control you, you will fight among yourself to get that limited resource access. Say for example, there are some eatables, oka 4 chocolates unnai anukundam. If there are 40 hungry people, if there is no one to distribute that, what these hungry people will do? They will quarrel among themselves to get access to that resources. This is a simple thing, and that is how human life has began. Look at during our stone ages, when man has not entered into any government or no one is there to control us. We are just like any animal. We used to live in jungles, and what it used to have, there are limited resources. Now if he goes and hunts some deer, ఒక డియర్ని హంట్ చేశాడు అనుకుందాం, దట్ ఈస్ హిస్ ప్రాపర్టీ. నౌ వై హీ హ్యాస్ హంటెడ్ ద డియర్? బికాస్ హీ ఈస్ హంగ్రీ అండ్ హీ ఈస్ మోర్ పవర్ఫుల్ దాన్ ద డియర్. యాజ్ ఎ రిజల్ట్ హీ హ్యాస్ హంటెడ్ ద డియర్, రైట్? యాజ్ హిస్ పవర్ ఈజ్ లెస్ దాన్ లయన్, హీ కెనాట్ కంట్రోల్ ద లయన్, రైట్? సో తన ఆహారం కోసం డియర్ని చంపాడు, అదే సింహాన్ని చంపాడు. ఎందుకు? తన ఆహారం అవుతాడు సింహానికి. సో దిస్ ఈస్ ద డిఫరెన్స్. సో వాట్ డస్ దిస్ మీన్? దిస్ మీన్స్ దట్ the more the power you have, the more you are going to catch that property. Clear? This is the first thing. Now what I will do is, if I am more powerful than him, there is no deer now, I am hungry. So what I will do, as there is no deer, I know that this guy has this property, he has hunted it and he has kept it. Now what I will do, I am more powerful than him, I will go to him, I will fight with him and I will rob that property that he has got. Now if he is obstructing me, as I am more powerful, I will kill him. This is what happens in jungles. Why? Here might is right. The jungle system is, those whoever is having power, they will become the owner. Might is right. ఎవరికైతే శక్తి ఉందో వారే శక్తివంతులు అక్కడ. Now tomorrow, today he has that property belonged to him, tomorrow that belonged to me because I am more powerful than him. What if day after tomorrow she is coming and she is more powerful, she will kill me and she will take away my property. Are you understanding? So when there is no one to regulate, people will fight among themselves. For what? For the limited resources. The limited resources is food here. Slowly people understood that. So with this model of jungle system, we cannot live peacefully. Always our lives are in danger, our properties are in danger. So over a period of time, with the evolution of human history, what we started doing is, the humans have come slowly to some contract. They agreed for some terms. They came together and they said that, look, I don't harm you, you don't harm me. Whatever the property that we have, we will be sharing in an equal manner. Like this, they have slowly coming into community. Slowly they formed the family system. Family system led to the so-called community system. Community system led to small villages, and slowly like that, villages has led to Janapadas, then Mahajanapadas, and then kingdoms. Like this we have evolved. That we'll study in how societies were formed. Now whenever we are coming together, we are agreeing on some principles, that I should not harm you, you should not harm me. And now what we will do, whatever the resources that is available, we will distribute in such a way that neither of us are going to get loss. It will be distributed in such a way that it will be a win-win scenario for this. Right? So if we two are the members who are entering into contract, we will discuss, okay, this is the deer, you take half part, I will take this half part. If we are 20 members, then we will allot one person saying that you distribute among us. This is what we do. నీకు ఎలా దోస్తుందో అలా డిస్ట్రిబ్యూట్ చేయండి అంటాం. బట్ ఎవ్రీ వన్ హ్యాస్ టు గెట్ అట్లీస్ట్ సమ్ పార్ట్ ఫర్ దేర్ సబ్సిస్టెన్స్. సో వాట్ వీఆర్ డూయింగ్, వీఆర్ ఎంటరింగ్ ఇన్ టు ద కాంట్రాక్ట్ ఆర్ వీఆర్ ఎంటరింగ్ ఇన్ టు ద ప్రిన్సిపల్స్ ఆర్ రూల్స్ సేయింగ్ దట్ how this resources has to be distributed. Why resources has to be distributed? So that there will be peace in the society, harmony in the human beings. The rules that you are framing, the principles that you are framing is nothing but economics. Economics is nothing but the rules and the principles that you are framing for what? For distribution of resources. So what I said, in any economy, resources are limited, but the wants of human beings are unlimited. For these limited resources, there will be always quarrel among these people. In order to overcome that, these people will come together. They will ask one person to regulate this, and to frame some rules so that the resources are produced and distributed in such a way that everyone is getting some benefit out of it. These rules that you are following is known as economics. Kanuka economics ante em ledu, rules ante. Right? For example, if you are here, there are some rules like you should face the board, you should come at this point of time. So these are the rules of Sarat Chandra IAS Academy. Similarly, you will have that thing. So what are the rules? The rules determine how the resources has to be produced, how the resources has to be distributed. Resources has to be produced, resources has to be distributed. For what? For the welfare of the public. For welfare of the public. So economics is nothing but rules determining the production of resources and distribution of resources. ప్రొడక్షన్ అండ్ డిస్ట్రిబ్యూషన్ ఆఫ్ రీసోర్సెస్లో ఏదైతే మీరు రూల్స్ ఫాలో చేస్తారో దాన్ని ఏమంటామంటే ఎకనామిక్స్ అంటాం. Now the resources normally are goods and services. Resources ante em untai? Goods and services. So economics is nothing but the rules that determine the production of goods and services and the distribution of goods and services. Clear? This is the meaning of economics. Understood, everyone? So you can write this. Economics is the rules are the principles. The rules are the principles. The rules are the principles which govern the production and distribution of resources. The production and distribution of resources for the welfare of the community. For the welfare of community or for harmonious human life. Harmonious human life. Now look, హార్మోనియస్ హ్యూమన్ లైఫ్ ఉండాలంటే ప్రతి ఒక్కరికి ఏవో కోరికలు ఉంటాయి. ఆ కోరికలు తీరుస్తే కానీ విల్ బీ నాట్ ఇన్ ఏ హార్మోనీ. దట్ ఈస్ ద థింగ్ దట్ యూ అండర్స్టూడ్. నౌ గవర్నెన్స్ ఈజ్ నథింగ్ బట్ ద సేమ్ థింగ్. ఇన్ జిఎస్ పేపర్ 2 యూ స్టడీ గవర్నెన్స్. ఎందుకు గవర్నమెంట్ ఉండాలి? ద ఫెలో హూమ్ యూ హ్యావ్ ఆర్డర్డ్ హియర్ టు డిస్ట్రిబ్యూట్, టుడే that fellow has become the government. What is government? Government is nothing but this fellow whom you have appointed to distribute it. Every 5 years you are appointing him. So in GS paper 2, whatever government does, it is at the welfare of the people. This fellow can be a king, this fellow can be a government agency. Clear? So in GS paper 2 you will study this as a part of governance. This is what I said, GS paper 3 has overlap of GS paper 2 because GS paper 3 ultimate objective is welfare of the people. Welfare of the people is the ultimate objective of any government, right? What Kautilya says, in the welfare of the subjects alone lies the welfare of the king. Praja sankshamamlone raju yokka sankshamam undi anes antaru. What does this mean? When these people are welfare, then the government will be at a welfareistic measure. So economics is nothing but discussing this. What are the resources that I have? What are the wants that you people have? And how I have to distribute it. Everyone has unlimited resources. I cannot satisfy, everyone has unlimited wants. I cannot satisfy each and every one wants. మీ కోరికలు అన్నీ నేను తీర్చలేకపోవచ్చు. But basic essentials has to be provided for each and every one. Right? I may not be able to give you an aeroplane if you are thinking that I want to fly. But at least I have to provide you some food to eat, some clothes to wear, right? Some shelter to live. This I have to provide. So governance is nothing but this. Everyone has their own aspirations. I should know what are the aspirations of this particular community, what their demands are, whether I can fulfill it. If there are reasonable demands, I should be able to meet them. Why? I have that resources. Like this, in the society, there will be different sections of people. There will be women, there will be children, there will be senior citizens, there will be rich people, there will be poor people, there will be SCs, there will be STs, there will be minorities belonging to religion, minorities belonging to the languages. Right? So for each and every section there will be some aspirations. ప్రతి ఒక్క వర్గానికి వారి యొక్క కోరికలు ఉంటాయి. అన్ని కోరికలు తీర్చలేకపోయినప్పటికీ కనీసం మినిమం కోరికలు అయితే తీర్చాలి. Then government will be very harmony, our society will be harmony. Otherwise what happens? One community will be fighting with other community. So for social development, what is the need of the hour? You should properly utilize that resources. This entire thing discussion is under governance. మీకు ఏం కోరికలు ఉన్నప్పటికీ కూడా బేసిక్ ఎసెన్షియల్స్ ఆర్ వెరీ వెరీ నెసెసరీ. వాట్ ఆర్ దట్ బేసిక్ ఎసెన్షియల్స్? ఫుడ్ టు ఈట్, క్లాత్స్ టు వేర్, షెల్టర్ ఫర్ లివింగ్, అండ్ స్లోలీ ఎడ్యుకేషన్, స్కిల్ అండ్ లైవ్లీహుడ్, ఒక ఎంప్లాయ్మెంట్. These are the basic things to live a comfortable life or a dignified life in the society. So what do I mean by that? This one. Human and social development is going to depend on how you are distributing it. అందరికీ అన్నీ ఇవ్వకపోయినా కూడా కనీసం ఉచిత విద్య, ఉచిత వైద్యం ఇవన్నీ ఇవ్వాలి గవర్నమెంట్. Why? Then only human development and social development will happen. Unless and until that doesn't happen, society will not grow. There will be no social justice. Then what it leads? It leads to the next topic, that is called disputes in the society, and there will be internal security problem. Oka group ante oka group, oka group ante oka group pardu, then there will be always fighting. This is how the topic is linked. If this is not possible, this will automatically result in this. Clear? So this is what economics is. I'll discuss the rest of the story at a later point. Understood what is economics? The resources has to be distributed in such a way that the aspirations of the people are fulfilled, so that there will be harmony in the society and harmony among the human beings. Now whenever I say rules, they have to be applied at somewhere. Say for example, I am framing a rule saying that the economics class is going to begin at 11 o'clock, it will be until 1 o'clock. All the students who are appearing, you have to come. All the students should appear in this hall. I am framing some rules, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I have to apply to some people. I cannot apply to some other institution. To whom I can apply? I can apply only to these students who are attending here. That to a particular batch. Maybe for other batch, some other class might be going on. Are you understanding? So what do I mean to say? Whenever I frame a rule, I have to apply in some geographical area to certain people. I cannot apply everywhere. This is one thing that you have to understand. So the area where you are applying that rules, the area or to the people where you are applying that rules, ఏవైతే రూల్స్ ఫ్రేమ్ చేసి ఉన్నారో, for those people whom you are applying, for that area where you are applying, that area is known as economy. Economy is nothing but the area where you are applying this principles or rules. ఫ్రేమ్ చేసిన రూల్స్ ఎక్కడైతే అప్లై చేస్తున్నారో దాన్ని ఎకానమీ అంటాం. For example, consider this. Write this: economy. Economy. It is the geographical area. It is the geographical area where the rules or economics is applied. Economics is applied. Or economics is applied. Example: Indian economy. Indian economy. What do you mean by Indian economy? The rules that was formed by India and government can be applied only in geographical territory of India. You cannot apply in China, you cannot apply in USA. They don't allow you. So Indian economy means these principles that you have framed, that principles will be applied only in the geographical territory of India. You cannot go beyond it. Every country is free to determine their rules. Clear? This is the one. Second example, US economy. The rules that were framed in US will be applied only to the geographical territory of USA. US economy. Like this, the terms will be coming. Indian economy అంటే ఏంటి, ఇక్కడ కొన్ని రూల్స్ ఉన్నాయి, అవి ఇండియాకి మాత్రమే అప్లై అవుతాయి అనేసి. చైనీస్ ఎకానమీ, the rules that are applied in China. Japanese economy, the rules that are applied in Japan. Who will fix that rules? The government who has been ruling that area. Clear? This is the thing. So economy is nothing but area, economics is nothing but the principles. So ఇవి రూల్స్ ఎక్కడైతే అప్లై చేస్తున్నామో దాన్ని ఎకానమీ అంటాం. యాజ్ సింపుల్ యాజ్ ఇట్. క్లియర్? నెక్స్ట్. నౌ లుక్, హోల్డ్ ఆన్. I said economics is production and distribution of goods and services. Now the question is, who will produce this, who will distribute it? Who will produce it and who will distribute it? If the production and distribution is done entirely by a private person or private agencies వితౌట్ గవర్నమెంట్ ఇంటర్వెన్షన్ లేకుండా మొత్తం ప్రైవేట్ వాళ్ళే ప్రొడ్యూస్ చేస్తున్నారు అనుకుందాం. ద ప్రొడక్షన్ ఈజ్ డన్ బై ద ప్రైవేట్ ప్లేయర్స్, ద డిస్ట్రిబ్యూషన్ ఈజ్ డన్ బై ద ప్రైవేట్ ప్లేయర్స్ వితౌట్ ఇన్వాల్వ్మెంట్ ఆఫ్ ఎనీ గవర్నమెంట్. దెన్ దట్ రూల్స్ ఆర్ నోన్ యాజ్ క్యాపిటలిస్టిక్ రూల్స్. Capitalistic means there will be no government at all, or government will not involve into production and distribution process. Clear? We can write at a later stage, try to understand. So in the production of goods and services, if it is entirely done by the private agencies, then that is called capitalistic. On the other hand, on the other extreme, if you are not allowing private players to hold any goods and services, I don't allow private player to be a part and parcel of production and distribution. Entire thing will be done by the government. If government is controlling the means of production and distribution entirely, then that is called not socialism, communist principles. In some books they give it as socialist. Communist you call it as. Communist means in economic perspective it is controlled by the government or the community at large. No individual player but by the community. Community is represented in the form of government. Right? So go with communistic, this one, government. On the other hand, when both government and private players are playing a crucial role in the production, both are present, government is present as well as private players are there in the production and distribution process, that you call it as mixed economies or socialistic economies. Mixed economies are socialistic economies. For example, look at the telephone services. Today in India, BSNL is providing. BSNL is a government company, as well as Reliance Jio is providing, Airtel is providing, other telecom services are providing. So Reliance and Airtel, they are private players. Along with that, this resource is produced by government also in the form of BSNL. That is called a mixed economy, mixed economies. Mixed economies. Getting this point? So depending upon this, who is producing and who is distributing, economics is classified into the so-called capitalistic, socialistic, communistic. Capitalistic means entirely by the private players, no government is involved. Government will be just there to provide safety to the private players. ఎవరైతే ప్రొడ్యూస్ చేస్తున్నారో వారికి సేఫ్టీ ఇవ్వడానికి మాత్రమే ఉంటుంది. Socialistic, together, this is the medium path. Communistic, entirely by the government. For example, now this is called capitalistic economics. The rules are saying that entire thing has to be controlled by the government. Economics means rules. This rule says that entire thing has to be controlled by the private player, the production and distribution. And the communist side, the entire thing has to be controlled by the community. Generally you say that in the form of government. Entire thing has to be controlled by the government. Production and distribution. No private player will be allowed. These are communist principles or economics. Socialist means a balance between capitalist and communist, that is both a mixed economies are known as socialist. Understood? For example, now when you apply these principles to an economy, I said that is called that economy. If you are applying capitalistic economics to an economy, that you call it as capitalistic economy, socialistic economy, communist economy. ఆ ప్రిన్సిపల్స్ ఏ ప్రిన్సిపల్ అప్లై చేస్తున్నా అనే దాన్ని బట్టి ఆ ఎకానమీని ఆ విధంగా చెప్తారు. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్, USA is a capitalistic economy. What does this mean? USA is a capitalistic economy. Economy means geographical area. You are considering USA as a geographical area. The principles are applied where? In USA. Which principles? Capitalistic principles. What is capitalistic principles? Everything will be controlled by private player. Government will be just providing safety. That's it. The erstwhile USSR and China are communist economies. Communist economies. China was a communist economy. Russia was a communist economy. Now what does this mean? In that geographical area, the principles that you have applied is communist principles, which means there will be no private property. The entire property belongs to the community. Government will be controlling it. Clear? India is a socialistic economy. Indian economy is a mixed economy. Indian economy is a socialistic economy. What does this mean? The principles of mixed economics are followed here in the land of India. Clear? Now the question is how this thing evolved. అసలు ఇది ఎలా వచ్చింది? Capitalism, communism, socialism. That is what we have to understand. But before that, please write it. You understood this? What is capitalistic, socialistic and communistic? Please. Capitalistic economies. Here. The production of goods and services. Is done entirely by the government. Is done entirely by the private players. Is done entirely by the private players. Government just act as a protector to the private agencies. That is ensuring law and order. ఈ ప్రైవేట్ ప్రాపర్టీ ఎవరు దోచుకొని పోకుండా గవర్నమెంట్ విల్ మేక్ షూర్ త్రూ పోలీస్. దట్ ఈస్ ఎన్ష్యూరింగ్ లా అండ్ ఆర్డర్. ఫుల్ స్టాప్. This idea was developed by Adam Smith in his book The Wealth of Nations. Full stop. It is also known as free market economics. Full stop. It means market will determine the production and distribution. Hence Markets, MARKETS, markets act as markets act as an invisible hand, an invisible hand, an invisible కనిపించలేనటువంటి చేయి, hand. Full stop. Next slide. This was the model which was followed in the industrialized societies of the West. From 16th century to 20th century. 16th century to 20th century. Full stop. Next, communist economies. Communist economies. In this the production of goods and services, and their distribution is in the hands of the community, in brackets, governments control the things. Next, there will be no role of private agencies in these economics. This idea was propounded by next line. This idea was propounded by Karl Marx in his Marxist principles, or Marxism, in his Marxist principles. Next slide. Mixed economies. These are also known as socialistic economies. Where the production of goods and services and their distribution production of goods and services and their distribution is done by the private as well as government agencies. is done by the private as well as the government agencies. Full stop. This led to the concept of welfare economics. Full stop. Next line. Full stop. This was propounded by John Maynard Keynes. J.M. Keynes. John Maynard Keynes. John Maynard Keynes. And it gained importance. Since 1920 Great Depression in America. Full stop. Hold on. That is what you have written. So, capitalistic, socialistic, communistic. Now, how these concepts have evolved over a period of time? Asali concepts ela vachai? Capitalism, communism, socialism anetivi. Now, if you look at the history of the world, prapancha charitra chuste, just like Indian history, in the ancient history and the medieval history of the world, the rule was done by the kings. అన్ని చోట్ల ఇదే రాజులు రాజ్యాలు until ancient and medieval history. But as the human beings have entered into the modern age, this modern age was a characteristic which was followed after industrial revolution because of the renaissance that has happened in the West. Industrial revolution has taken place, and this industrial revolution started in European countries. Slowly, at that point of time, up to the ancient history and medieval history, the entire production of goods and services was handled by the king. King was the ultimate power. No one was there to question the king, and king used to say, I will distribute the resources because entire resources belongs to me and it is my duty to produce and to distribute. So there was no concept of individual property. Everything belonged to the state, everything belonged to the king, and we used to just work there and used to get the salaries from the king. This is what the concept is. So slowly what the people did is, or what these people did is, there was industrial revolution that started coming out. Now there was some revolution saying that how can the king have all the property should belong to the people. So the property was transferred from the king to individual people. Now during this period of time, what happened? Now there was so much production, and the production is done by the individual players who are knowing how to produce the things. So king was kept aside. Slowly the production was started by the market. Why market? Because those who have entered into this industrial revolution, those who are producing the goods and services, they captured it. Now what they started telling is, that we will produce and we will distribute it to the public depending upon the demand. You don't tell me how much I have to produce and how much I have to distribute. The king has to be silent. Now this was the concept which was introduced by Adam Smith in his book Wealth of Nations. This is a famous book because the rise of capitalism has its roots in Adam Smith's book. Now what this fellow said is, when the government is very silent or when the king is very silent, let the private players work to their level. Because of this, the efficiency of utilization of resources is going to be very high. If government is involving in each and every business, because of their poor efficiency, the resources are getting wasted. So what they say is, because of their technological advancements, these people will be in a better position to produce the limited resources. Resources are already limited, why to waste them? Give it to the private players. Private players will know how to effectively produce it, and they will reduce the wastages and they can distribute it to the public. This is what he has said. And this concept has eliminated the government in the production process, and it was entirely done by the private players. Slowly the private players used to determine how should be the production, what should be the production without the involvement of government at all. This was the story in the modern Indian history, modern world history. For almost 400 years you followed the same principle, where the government was given, where the private players was given a very free hand to produce the goods and distribute it according to the demands of the people. Now how private players will produce and distribute? What people said is, those who are producing, the private players, the capitalists, what they said is, you don't tell me how much I have to produce, I know how much I have to produce. Now how do I know that how much I have to produce? I will look at the market, I will look at the people, based on the demand of the people, I will produce my goods and services. If there is more demand, more goods will be produced. If there is less demand, I will produce less. Now who are you to come and say how much it has to be produced? This is the question. For example, in Andhra Pradesh, you might be knowing this. Jagan Mohan Reddy government did one thing. What? They have involved in regulating the ticket prices of cinema theatres. Gurtunda, okay, 2 years back. So what they did, they started coming and telling that the cinema prices or ticket prices for each and every film, it has to be this much. The film fraternity was very angry on this. What they said, who are you to determine the prices? How you are going to determine the prices? Leave it to the market. If people are interested, they will come and they will pay that amount. Depending upon the popularity of the hero, they will pay that. So if there is a movie of Pawan Kalyan, as Pawan Kalyan has more number of fans, people will come and pay more. That is their interest. Now how you can come in the middle and how you are stopping it? Whether government can do it or not, that is a separate story. Government can do it. But this is the question that they raised it. So what these people's argument is, government should not enter into this business. At max, what Jagan Mohan Reddy government has to do, it has to ensure that in the cinema theatre there is no nonsense which is happening. If there is some clashes which is happening, police should be there to resolve it. Otherwise, it should not determine what should be the prices in the theatre. Why? That will be decided by the people. Based on the demand of the people, I will be producing it. If there is more demand, I produce more. If there is less demand, I will produce less. You don't determine us. This was the entire capitalistic principle. So this was what it said, and it really worked. This is called capitalism, and the people who were producing or controlling this means of production and distribution, they have become very, very rich, because depending upon the situation they produced and whatever the benefit that they got, they become very rich. So that you call it as capitalist. So I have opened an industry, I have employed few people as workers, they worked and we sold the product, I got the money, I paid little amount to you, I became rich. This is how the system started building up. Slowly after 200 years or 250 years, in Germany there was a person known as Karl Marx. Karl Marx observed this principle of how capitalists are exploiting the workers. Now, whatever the profits that the capitalists are getting, I give them the salaries, I take the major portion of that profits. Because of this, for the work that is done by the employers or the workers, I am taking the major share. This was not liked by Karl Marx. And Karl Marx said that, look, as the government is very silent, these people has captured the production of goods and services, and they are controlling everything by giving very little to the workers who are working in their factories. This is called exploitation of the worker by the owner. Right? నేను మిమ్మల్ని ఇక్కడ జాబ్ ఇచ్చి పెట్టుకున్నాను, నాకు ఏదైతే డబ్బులు వస్తున్నాయో I will be taking by giving little payment to you. This was not liked by this man, and he said that this is rising the inequalities and workers are facing huge problems, but this fellow is not taking the money from their pocket. So what this guy said is, workers of the world has to come, they have to unite and they have to revolt against the owners. So he said that the workers should control, or the community should control, the means of production and distribution rather than few players like the private players who are capturing the goods and services. So what he called is, he gave a clarion call saying that the workers of the world has to unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains. What does this mean? ప్రపంచంలో ఉండే శ్రామిక సోదరులారా రండి, కలిసి పోరాడండి, పోరాడితే పోయేదేమీ లేదు, ప్రాణాలు తప్ప, బానిస సంకలు తప్ప. What does this mean? You are already in chains of the owners. Fight and get that property. You become the owners of that property. You means the community. So what he said is, the moment community is capturing this, they will determine how much they have to produce, how much they have to distribute. Once the profit is coming, they will decide or they will distribute among themselves. This was the thing. in place of that community over a period of time. That was the philosophy that was said by Karl Marx, that you call it as Marxism. Over a period of time, that has turned to different model, that is called communism, but the principle is same. Here in communism, there will be one agency which will be controlling, that is called government. Now, I will not be allowed at all, I will not be entertained at all, private player will not be entertained. Rather than that, there will be some government people who will be controlling the entire resources and they will be distributing it to the people, entirely private players. However, this system didn't work in the Western world because of lack of trust of the workers. Workers of the world never united, they have never revolted. So this was not possible. So this was the thing. So the thing was propounded, but that couldn't materialize, except in Russia in 1917 it has revolutionized, because in Russia there was a government which has revolutionized, and in China they have done this. Except in 2 or 3 places, Cuba, Russia and China, you do not find this model of communism. So more or less in the rest of the world, from 1600 AD to 1920 AD, entire thing was carried by private players. So Adam Smith's principles were working decently well. Now what happened in 1920s, there was a Great Depression. Now what is depression? Depression is a situation where there is failure of the economy. People are not having money, they are not having jobs, they are not having nothing to buy and eat. This was a position. At this point of time, this capitalists, the economy was running on capitalism. These capitalists, what they did, they stopped production. Why? There is no demand. Why there is no demand? People doesn't have money. Demand is there, but until and unless I pay money, this fellow will not produce, because the private players always work for profit. If I have profit, I will produce. Otherwise, I will shut my industry and I will be silent. Example, look at during Corona. When the lockdown was announced, why the migration crisis has happened in India? ఎందుకు migrants అంతమంది వాళ్ళ ఊరికి వెళ్ళాలనుకున్నారు? Because all these days when the lockdown was not there, these workers used to work with that owners. The moment there was lockdown, these owners thought that if the lockdown is extended for 6 months or 7 months, how can I pay money for not working of these people? So they have laid it off them. నేను డబ్బులు ఇవ్వను, మీరు ఏం చేస్తారో మీ సాగు మీదే అనేసి అన్నారు. Now when that fellow was left, he is on the road. That is what we have seen. So this is the perfect example of capitalistic economies. When they have profit, they engage. When they don't have profits, they leave. There was no production and people were dying out of starvation. Produce చేయాల్సిందంతా మీరే ప్రొడ్యూస్ చేయాలి. Now you are very silent. In 1920 they observed this model. They observed that the economies were stalling and the economy was totally halted. Then came a person known as John Maynard Keynes. Now what this fellow said is, look, why this problem has occurred in 1920? Because you left the entire system to the private players. That is the reason why it was failed. So what this guy proposed is, yes, what Adam Smith is said is correct, but not always it is correct. In only some scenarios, you should give free hand to that guy, private player. But when there is crisis in the economy, it is the government who has to step in, who has to look at the welfare of the people, because by the end of the day, government is elected to look at the welfare of the people, not the private players. Private players evudu madhyalo vacharu, but people have elected you. Why? To look at the welfare. And I said this, ప్రజా సంక్షేమంలోనే ప్రభుత్వ యొక్క సంక్షేమం ఉంటుంది అని. In the welfare of the subjects also lie in the welfare of the government or the king. So what this guy said is, don't leave everything to the private players. You work along with them. Yes, private players, give them a free hand, but at the same time, you should be present always. Why you should be always present? You should be always present because in the society, in the public, there will be some people who will not be having that money to produce what that fellow is taking. Not everyone will be having money to go to Apollo Center if you are facing some health problem. For that, government has to step in and government should open one free hospital, public hospital, so that people who are unable to go to Apollo, they can go to this. If not everyone is able to go to Sri Chaitanya Narayana, there should be some public school which is established by the government so that people will go there. So what this man said is, in an economy, never leave everything to the private player, because if you are leaving to the private player, then welfare is not going to be reached. What is welfare? You have to fulfill the aspirations of the people. You are not going to fulfill it. Clear? So what this guy said, there should be a collaboration between the private players as well as public players or government to look at the development. This has given rise to the concept of socialism or mixed economy. So private players should work in tandem with government. Government should step in at least to provide basic minimum essentials. తినడానికి తిండి, కావాల్సిన దానికి ఒక షెల్టర్, ఫుడ్, these things has to be given by the government. These fellows won't give it. That is the point. Now once you are providing that to the people, then there will be welfare. సంక్షేమం అనేది ఉంటుంది. This concept has given rise to welfare economies. Previous year prelims mains question. It is not only the legal imperative of the government but also the moral imperative of the government to look at the welfareistic objective. It is not only the legal imperative but also the moral imperative of the government to look at the welfare objective. This is one question that they asked in GS paper 2. The next question that they asked is, for good governance, this is not only important for the government to work, even some other agencies has to collaborate with the government. Explain. For good governance, not only the government should work, but there should be some other agencies who has to cooperate. Explain. Now what does this mean? Both the questions are speaking in similar line. Right? It is not only the legal imperative. Legal means law says that government has to give protection for the people. But it is also a moral responsibility. Naitika badyata kuda. Why? Because the ultimate aim of government is to provide welfare. Now that welfare cannot be given just by giving it to the private players. Hence, if you want to have growth or if you want to have society to develop or welfare in the society, what you should have? You should have collaboration between government as well as private players. This model we call it as mixed economies. Along with the private players, you can also have civic society playing a crucial role. Right? Say for example, if private players, if you are hungry, go to Bawarchi. Bawarchi is a private one. డబ్బులు ఉంటే బావర్చి కానీ వెళ్తాం, ఎక్కడికైనా వెళ్తాం. డబ్బులు లేకపోతే ఏదైనా ఒక సత్రం చూసుకోవాలి గవర్నమెంట్ది. రైట్? యూ హ్యావ్ టు లుక్ అండ్ యూ హ్యావ్ టు ఫైండ్ వేర్ గవర్నమెంట్ ఈజ్ కీపింగ్ ద మనీ. సో గో టు సమ్ మిడ్ డే మీల్స్ కాన్సెప్ట్, స్కూల్కి వెళ్ళి తినండి. అది కూడా లేకపోతే గో టు సమ్ ఒక అనాథ ఆశ్రమాల్లో, తిరుమల తిరుపతి దేవస్థానంలో భోజనం పెడుతుంటారు, అక్కడ పోయి తినాలి. లైక్ దిస్. క్లియర్? సో ద అల్టిమేట్ ఆబ్జెక్టివ్ ఈజ్ టు రిమూవ్ ద హంగర్. How you can remove? A collaboration of efforts is required. Government cannot reach each and everyone. People who are having money, they can go to some place. People who doesn't have money, they can go to some place. If you are unable to go to this, at least go for civic societies like NGOs, donors, trusts, charitable institutions. There will be many things. Go to them. So this is the concept of mixed economies. One of the important areas for asking the question in mains. They don't ask in GS paper 3, they ask in GS paper 2 because this is social justice. Samajika nyayam ante ide. Getting this point? So this is the context. This is how the subject is related. So this is how the subject was evolved. So the question is this. It is not only the legal imperative for the government, but also moral imperative. చట్టరీత్యా కూడా అలానే నైతికంగా కూడా. చట్టం ఏం చెప్తుంది? ప్రభుత్వం రక్షించాలి అని చెప్తుంది చట్టం. నైతికంగా ప్రభుత్వం ఉండేదే ప్రజల రక్షణ కోసం. రైట్? సో వాట్ డస్ దిస్ మీన్? వెనెవర్ దే ఆస్క్ ఏ క్వశ్చన్, it is not only the legal imperative but also the moral imperative of the government to protect the people. Means you cannot leave entirely to these fellows and you cannot be a bystander. Right? That is the reason why during COVID-19, when there was lockdown, Government of India has come down. When these people have left out, government has instructed these people that you should not fire your employees at that point of time. It said that the rent owners should not collect the rent. At least they have passed some law. Then they set out with one scheme that is known as Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. They launched some yojanas like this. Why? For the welfare of the public. So the question can be asked in any direction. Question ఏ విధంగా అన్న అడగచ్చు, ఈ విధంగా అన్న అడగచ్చు, లేకపోతే ఫర్ ద డెవలప్మెంట్ ప్రాసెస్ నాట్ ఓన్లీ గవర్నమెంట్, ప్రైవేట్ ప్లేయర్స్ ప్లే వెరీ ఇంపార్టెంట్ రోల్ అన్నప్పుడు కూడా ద ఆన్సర్ విల్ బి సేమ్. ఆర్ యూ అండర్స్టాండింగ్? ద రూట్ ఈస్ దిస్. Question can be any branch. You have to address the root. So this is the development of economics over a period of time. Capitalistic, socialistic, communistic. So what is the rest of the story? I'll discuss tomorrow. Sectors of economy. If you have any questions, I'll give you 1 minute. You can ask. Otherwise, we'll wind it up here. That is what I said. In some books, they have written both communist and socialist. Communist and socialist, in some books they have written it as both same, but for general understanding, if you understand from the Indian perspective, India right from independence it was a socialistic economy. Socialistic economy means where you have a mixed economic model, more or less. That is what they say. So that depends upon the text that you are reading. But communistic means community will be holding. That is the only difference. Socialistic means more or less both the people will be there. Kanukane socialism ante mixed economy ani kuda antam. Any other thing? Any other question, anyone? You are able to follow, right? So tomorrow I'll continue from this slide. Sectors of economy. Thanks for joining. Have a great day. Tomorrow bring the Hindu newspaper.